Media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
What is going on, y'all? Welcome to the Mission Ready Men briefing right here on the SHR Media Network, where faith in God is the standard and masculinity is not up for negotiation. Today is Thursday, March 26th, the year of our Lord 2026, and we have a ton of stuff to get into. We got illegal immigrant crime, we got Islamification, we got pundits and politicians spewing all kinds of verbal diarrhea and a whole lot more. So let's get after it. And before we do, though, do me a favor, hit the like button, subscribe to the show and to the channel, and help us get out of the algorithm's ridiculous kung fu grip. The algorithm has been kicking us square in the onions of late. We're growing, but it's slowed down. So please be sure to help us out. Every like and share and comment helps us out quite a bit. So we appreciate that. Okay. There is a point where the spin, everything just stops working. The messaging doesn't comport with reality anymore. And we are at that point right now. And we have been for a while now. But we talk crime that is completely preventable. They're telling us is just part of the way of life. I think it was Governor Pritzker who said that. And if it wasn't him, it was some leftist. But you're also told not to notice the cultural changes taking place in your communities and neighborhoods. Voters are told not to take any of this seriously. And of course, at some point, reality rears back and stops asking permission. It just bites. And so that's where we're at right now. And we saw this. I mentioned this in passing in the last show, and I didn't really get a chance to talk about it in any great detail. But when things happen, when tragedies happen, the left either just completely ignores it or deflects, refuses to answer questions. And it's getting to the point now where we just can't, we can't let it slide, and reality is not letting it slide anymore. Recently, like I said, I didn't get a chance to talk about it a whole lot, but we all know the case of Sheridan Gorman, who was gunned down by an illegal alien in a completely preventable crime. And Sheridan Gorman's family, they put out a great statement. I'm not going to read it now, but it's everywhere, and it was fantastic. And she was a student at Loyola in Chicago. And so one of the best journalists in the business right now, William Kelly, who has who has made a sport basically of just shredding Mayor Mohawk, had an interesting exchange with him. I'm not going to play the whole thing because it's quite long, but I will play some of it and kind of pause it and make comments. But William Kelly, he and Mayor Mohawk don't get along. That is obvious. They are not going to be going out for beers anytime soon. But this was that exchange. So let's take a look at this.
Mayor Johnson, Bethany McGee, I don't know if you remember her name. She was set on fire on a CTA train by a repeat violent offender who was out on the street because of your policies. She never would have been set on fire. She would be living her life right now, but for your policies. Now, again, we have another young lady, 18-year-old Irish girl, Sheridan Gorman, who is dead at the hands of a suspect, an illegal alien, who, once again, was out on the streets because of your policies. Okay?
What's your question?
He wanted, I'm sorry, don't interrupt me. Don't interrupt me.
Get to the question, respect.
Don't interrupt me.
Okay. Like I said, William Kelly is one of the best in the business right now. On a certain level, though, I do kind of understand why people always say, go ahead and get to the question. He does spend a lot of time giving context, which is a lot of times necessary. I think he does tend to go on a little long, but it's worth it though. And so let's continue.
Respect the question.
What question?
Respect the question.
Ask it.
I do like that he basically told him to kick rocks.
What's the question? All right, Craig.
Could you have a little respect?
Goes both ways, man.
Sheridan Gorman is dead today at the hands of a suspect, an illegal alien, who was out on the streets because of your policies. You've spent hundreds of millions
Ask the question.
of taxpayer dollars to protect these illegal aliens. You've instructed the Chicago Police Department not to turn them over to ICE. Do you have anything? You didn't even issue a statement, which I guess is better than the statement you released,
We got it.
announcing that Bethany McGee was an isolated incident, which is an insult, which is almost evil.
Please get to the question, sir.
Not almost.
Did you coordinate with Governor Pritzker not to release statements as a way of trying to diminish the death
I think I understand your question.
Sheridan Gorman?
So there was no coordination, between me or any other level of government around this tragedy. What I can say is it is a tragedy, and look,
A preventable tragedy.
Please don't interrupt.
As someone who is raising a family,
You don't have any problem interrupting me, do you?
Do you want the answer to your question?
I want to answer the question here. And look, as I said,
And it really wasn't any kind of answer to the question. I mean, it's a tragedy. Yeah, duh. We all know this. And it was completely preventable, which he completely ignored that part of the question. And it's just par for the course with these guys. There was another part of the press conference that I want to get to, because I think this part was pretty telling as well.
we're going to double down on our efforts to ensure that we create safe communities across the city, and we're going to continue to.
Will you apologize to? Will you take this opportunity to apologize to Sheridan's parents for the policies that you have promoted that would directly caused her death. That suspect would not be in the city, would not be in the country, but for your policies. Will you take this opportunity to apologize
Again, I
to Sheridan's
believe that
family?
we're all grieving the loss of Sheridan and other folks who have lost their lives because of senseless violence. And let's just be very clear, between the Safety Act and the Welcoming City Ordinance, the Welcoming City Ordinance was passed 40 years ago by the first black mayor in the history of Chicago. And the Safety Act was passed under the governor, at that time, who was a Republican.
Two things. What does it matter whether the mayor was black or white? Why does that matter? Well, it matters because he's a racist. That's why that matters. It doesn't matter to those of us who have any kind of sense. But then he just lied, because the Safety Act was not signed into law by a Republican governor. It was signed into law by J.B. Pritzker. But there are people who don't know that, who won't bother to look it up, who will just take him at his word with that, which is sad. But we're just told to ignore all of that. We're just told that the perpetrators, for whatever reason, we're just supposed to ignore that they're illegal aliens. The victims, everyday Americans like Laken Riley, Jocelyn Nungaray, Rachel Morin, whose senator didn't mention her either, didn't offer any condolences to her family, but then went to El Salvador to have margaritas with Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Katie Abraham, Ivory Smith, Molly Tibbetts. The list just goes on. Ryan Moody, Madison Carroll, Brady Hilling, Haley Hegelson. There's a website. What's it called? I believe it's How Many Is Too Many, that lists all of the victims of illegal aliens. And it is a very, very long list. And you had Hakeem Jeffries. He was asked by Bill Malugin about it. He just said, I'll look into the case. He didn't bother. He had no idea what was going on. Talking about the Sheridan Gorman case. They just completely sidestep and whitewash these illegal immigration issues. They might discuss the crime, maybe, but the context gets completely wiped out. And the context matters. The immigration status of the perpetrators, as far as they're concerned, is completely irrelevant. And anyone who expresses any kind of public concern about the issue, they're accused of advancing a political agenda or fear-mongering or scapegoating. Protect the narrative at all costs. That's what these people do. But reality usually has different ideas. Leadership, the elites who are in charge, for whatever reason, they just refuse to acknowledge the risk that their policies have put us under. They just refuse to acknowledge it. And then when these failures do come to light, well, then they minimize them and mitigate them with all kinds of ridiculous language to obfuscate the fact that they're at fault. Public safety becomes a secondary or even third level concern, because as far as they're concerned, it's their power and their money that matter more than whether or not your daughter is safe to walk down the street at night. It was a video of, and this knucklehead, Mayor Mohawk, famously said that you can't incarcerate yourself out of a violent crime problem. And there's a video of people walking down the street late at night in El Salvador without a care in the world because Nayib Bukele did exactly that. He locked them up. You can ignore reality all you want in a press conference. You can ignore reality all you want on X. You can ignore reality all you want on social media, but you cannot ignore reality in the morgue. Period. Reality couldn't care less about your narrative because reality is showing up anyway. And it's not just about crime. It's showing up in culture as well. And one of the main places that one of the places that has been targeted is Texas. And I'm talking about Islam. And that's an evergreen topic on this show. And for some reason, it doesn't want to come up. But anyway, Islamists are hyper focused on dominating the West. Hyper focused. And for some reason, my computer doesn't want to cooperate today, but we'll get it done. But like I said, Islamists are hyper focused on dominating the West. And all the people, all the leftists, the American Pravda all say, it's not happening. That's not happening. Or they'll acknowledge that it's happening, but you can't say that. Or they'll just say, you're an Islamophobe. Even though that implies that there's some irrational, it's irrational to be afraid of what Islam is doing, even though they're killing people left and right all over the world in the name of Islam. But if you're concerned about that, you're an Islamophobe. But people with common sense are seeing it. They're seeing it. And the Islamists, the people who are intent on spreading the chaos that is Islam, the cult that is Islam, they are calling Texas the Mecca of the West. And they're doing that because they know that if Texas falls, if Texas succumbs to the onslaught of Islam, it's going to be that much easier for them to do it in the rest of the country. You have in Texas, you have these, and I've talked about this many times before, you have these growing enclaves, Epic City, now known as the Meadows. You have another one of these things popping up in Murphy, Texas, Aubrey, Texas. You have the Ismaili Center in Houston that is funded by a billionaire imam. But you're not allowed to notice this. And I'm going to get into it here in a second, But they are using our freedoms against us to do exactly this. But you're not allowed to notice this. You're not allowed to notice the changes. You're not allowed to notice the signage. You're not allowed to notice the enclaves and the clustering in these neighborhoods, because that's Islamophobic or something. In Texas right now, there is an Arabic radio station, 94.1 FM. And I can't remember the name of the station. But there's an Arabic radio station with billboards all over the highways.
A driver just outside Dallas sent Rare this photo, taken along the highway, a massive billboard for Aswat FM 94.1 HD4, an Arabic language radio proudly proclaiming in gold letters, "We speak to you in Arabic."
There was a time when in Texas, you would have billboards for ranches and barbecue joints and Buc-ee's, although there's still some Buc-ee's billboards. But this is what they're aiming for. And the debate is not whether or not Muslims are allowed to practice Islam in this country. The debate is about the scale at which it's happening and their intent. And if you don't believe what their intent is, then all you have to do is listen to them. When people tell you who they are, believe them.
Messengers of the messenger. We are the representative of this deen of Islam. We have to be the solution. The future is ours. Every ideal nightmare of a Muslim Europe will come true. They can be as mad as they want. I don't care.
Of course. We can be as mad as we want. They don't care. And part of the reason they don't care is because they have been throwing a ton of money at it. They have been throwing a ton of money at politicians who are allowing this to happen. For all of the great work that people like Amy Meck of the Rare Foundation, Laura Loomer, say what you want about Laura Loomer. I think she's said and done some ridiculous things, but when it comes to her fight against Islam, I think she's right on point. And there are others. Tommy Robinson, again, say what you want about him, but he was basically run out of his own country because of what he was saying about Islam. And all of the people who are stepping up and speaking out. It's still happening. And it's still happening because of money, which we'll get to here in a second. The person I just showed you was Uthman Farouk. He is a well-known Islamic scholar. And he said we can cry all we want and be mad as much as we want. And he's got good reason. He's got good reason to feel that way, because in New York, there are 570 mosques. In California, there's 481. In Texas, there's 399. In Florida, there's 250, and in Illinois, there's 228. The top 5 states have almost 2,000 mosques. That's not nothing. That's a takeover, or the beginnings of one. But like I said, it's allowed to happen because of the money. A guy by the name of Saeed Javed Anwar was appointed to the Texas Board of Higher Education back in 2015 by Greg Abbott. Anwar is the owner of Midland Energy, one of the largest suppliers of oil and gas to the state of Texas. In 2020, he was Greg Abbott's top donor at $1.6 million. In 2024, that grew to $5.2 million. And this year, the first quarter isn't even over yet, and he's at $2.1 million in donations. That's why so many mosques and Islamic centers and that Ismaili center in Houston, that's why they're allowed to expand the way they have. I think I showed this video before on a past show. But this is all of the mosques. I believe it's been over 50 mosques have opened in the past 2 years in Texas. And this is, I mean, look at that. That's just in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. That's insane. It's insane that it was allowed to happen, and it was allowed to happen because they paid off Greg Abbott. And this is why I say, and I have said, for whatever good thing that Greg Abbott's press office puts out that he's done, people who are paying attention understand that he is double dealing and selling off Texas. People who have been following us know I lived in Texas for almost 20 years. We'd probably still be in Texas if it weren't for some of Greg Abbott's policies. And that really doesn't have anything to do with Islam. He's basically taxing everybody out of the state of Texas. The property taxes in Texas basically price you out of homes and properties that you would otherwise jump on. That's what happened to us. Our taxes on our property went up, I believe, 25 or 30% in just a few years. It was insane. And then that tax revenue that they collect, they turn around and donate it to these Islamic centers so they can build more of them. But you're not allowed to notice that. You're not allowed to notice that. You're not allowed to express that. Because if you do, again, you're a hater, you're a bigot, you're an Islamophobe, you're a racist. I love that one even because Islam is not a race, but the low educated voters love to toss that out there. But when they do that, that basically just shuts down all debate. People hate being called a racist. People hate being called a phobe. They hate being called ists and phobes. The istophobic phobophobes, as Dan Bongino once said. And so then the social pressure from that shuts down discussion. Meanwhile, listen to what some of these Islamic scholars and imams say. And we're just supposed to just let it go. We're not supposed to notice. Because it's just talk. It's never going to happen. But what did I say? When people tell you who they are, believe them.
We don't say that Islam is here to live, to coexist with lots of different religions and all of us can just hold hands and be friends. This religion has been sent to dominate, to wipe out, to take out every other religion, to have.
What else is there to say? But he goes on.
Have the people leave every religion and to accept Islam. And if that requires fighting to achieve it, then it requires fighting to achieve it. Because the greatest purpose for which jihad was legislated is to make the word of Allah the highest and the word of those who disbelieve the lowest, even if the disbelievers hate it. But we're not shy to say it, and we don't find that to be something that we should be shy to say.
And they're not shy. They are absolutely not shy. They are not here to coexist. They are here to dominate. And Greg Abbott in Texas has paved the way. And it's happening, like I said, in California, Illinois. It's happening everywhere. Especially, I don't even want to say especially blue states, because Texas is allegedly a red state, and he's doing it there. There's another one that I want to, there's another one I want to show you, because I just want to make sure people understand what is at stake here and what their plans are.
Came up to me, started talking, asking about Islam, and I literally went aside from the crowd. I despise aspects of what my government is doing, but I cannot deny that the freedoms that this country gives are unparalleled in the entire globe. No matter what's happening.
They're using it against us. They're using it against us. And we're just letting it happen.
We will always call people to Islam. So yes, we're going to call them to Islam, and we have that right. And thousands of people are embracing Islam. I'm going to share a personal story. Astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah. I'm not bragging or boasting. Astaghfirullah. But I'm telling you factually, it made me so happy. I just got the message. I literally went aside from the crowd, and I really spent like 5-10. He just took the shahada today. Alhamdulillah. Our victory is going to be one person after another, one brother or sister after another. These Generation Z and millennials and these under the age of 35, within a decade, they're going to be the CEOs. They're going to be the congressmen. Within 20 years, they're going to be in the Senate and in the White House. So victory is long term. Stop thinking about today.
And there it is. They are not thinking short term. They're playing the long game. And once again, we're just letting it happen. I got one more that I want to show you, just to hammer this point home. Because I don't know, it really mystifies me why so many people are just dismissing this threat as if it's not reality. people they just don't seem to care. They don't seem to care that they are willing to behead you if you don't submit to Allah, or if you don't pay the tax.
When Muslims go and conquer the adjacent country, what do? We kill them all? No. The Prophet says, the first thing you do is call them to Islam. If they refuse, then tell them Allah obliged upon you to pay taxation. In return, when enemy comes and attack your country, you don't fight. We Muslims protect you. Subhanallah, for this little money? Yes. And you enjoy sitting in your homes and in your country and live your life normally. But the ruling is for Sharia. So you do not open nightclubs, you do not fornicate. If they refuse, then we have to fight. And if we fight you, then we capture you, you become our slaves, and we take your land, and you take because you refuse. I give you two good options in the coming 40, 50 years when the Muslims become strong as they're supposed to be.
And I know one of the criticisms I get a lot when I say this and when I play these clips, that's just one random Muslim. That's not how they really think. Okay, maybe try reading the Quran. Just try it. And then tell me if you don't believe them. Then tell me you don't think that then tell me you think that it's just one or a handful of random imams and scholars saying this, and that's not how Muslims actually believe. And I've made this point before. Muslims who are not practicing Islam the way this guy is teaching are not considered real Muslims. They're cultural Muslims because they were born and raised, but they don't practice. But when push comes to shove, what do you think they're going to do? Do you think they're going to side with Christians and Jews? Or do you think they're going to take up a sword on the side of Islam and the pedophile prophet? You're not allowed to acknowledge the reality on the ground. And they don't have to convince you that it's not happening. They just have to make you afraid to say that it is happening. But let me just say this. Christians need to be as bold in our faith as these radical Islamists are. And I shouldn't even say radical because they're just following their religion as prescribed in the Quran. But Christians need to be as bold in our faith as they are, bolder. Romans 8:31 says, if God is for us, who can be against us? We have to be bold. One of the reasons that this madness is spread is because Christians have stopped being bold in our faith and proclaiming the word of God and just going along to get along. Christians haven't been courageous enough in our evangelism. And I hate saying that we have to I don't want to say emulate, but we just have to match their boldness with our own and then step it up even further. When people get tired of being told to ignore their lying eyes, they're going to push back. They're going to push back. And we're going to get into one of those things here in a second. But first, I want to get in a word from our sponsor. And today, our sponsor is going to be our own SHR Media Shop. And in the SHR Media Shop, you can check out all of the great designs that we have for our great hosts. The biggest one, though, I want to talk about is the 250 Reasons t-shirt, 250 Reasons to Read Source Documents. And this shirt expresses our need to actually understand how this country was founded, read the source documents that laid the foundation for what we have, and understand, because for a ton of reasons that I won't get into now, we just haven't been taught that. So we need to acknowledge that. So head over to the SHR Media Shop and get the 250 Reasons to Read Source Documents tee, as well as all of the logo tees for the great hosts on this network. You have the Edge of Liberty with Sackhead Sean, Beer and Bullstein. That is a great design. The Reaver of Common Sense, the Conservative Sherpa BZ and the Berserk Bobcat Saloon. Of course, you have the Mission Ready Men Briefing tee, the SHR logo hoodie and tee, and the SHR Media mug, which is an awesome mug. In fact, oh, you can't see it because I'm not on camera right now, but the SHR Media mug is awesome. So please be sure and check that out as well. All right, y'all. I am Biggie, and you are watching or listening to the Mission Ready Men Briefing right here on the SHR Media Network, where you can catch, as I just mentioned, Sackhead Sean, the Edge of Liberty, every Monday and Wednesday at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific. Jersey Joe and the Reaver of Common Sense on Mondays and Fridays at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. BZ in the Berserk Bobcat Saloon every Tuesday and Thursday at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific. And the new guy, Lyle Armstrong, with Beer and Bullstein every Friday and Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. And I'm still, like I said, thinking about doing a Saturday show. We'll see. We'll see if that comes to fruition. And but please be sure to like and subscribe and share all of the great shows that we have, and pray that we have another breakthrough. The algorithm is trying to stifle us a little bit. We're still growing. So thank you all for liking and sharing and subscribing to the channel and to the shows. But we want to reach as many people as we possibly can. So please do us a favor right now, if you haven't done it already, like, subscribe, and share this show and share the channel. We would really appreciate it. All right, now let's get back to the briefing. Now, I talked about how when people get tired of being told to ignore what's right in front of them, or being told that what's happening right in front of them isn't happening, they push back. And it's happening in Europe right now. The AfD in Germany, Alternative for Deutschland, they just had elections, and they had an unexpected great showing in Germany. And the AfD, I know, is purported to be this radical right-wing group. But we're seeing a rise in conservatism and conservative thought, basically all over the globe. And it's starting with young people. And the youth vote in Germany sided massively with the AfD in the best result they've ever had in the German elections. And it's a populist movement, and it secured its strongest ever result in German elections this past weekend. And that's due, like I said, to the youth vote, the group that's actually supposed to lean left. But because the left has gone so utterly insane, they're seeing a backlash from the younger generations. They're seeing, seeing their opportunities dry up, courtesy of the left and their ridiculous imports. It kind of reminds me of how the left went so bananas heading into the 2024 election. And they went so bat guano that the whiplash swung to the Republicans. Now, of course, Republicans are doing their level best to give that victory back, and that's something we'll get into later. But this is a populist wave that is sweeping across Europe right now. Establishment parties are losing ground. And people are losing trust in their ability to govern, just like here. And it's not just left versus right. There's actually, it's actually happening, like I said, across Europe. In France, Marie Le Pen's party got their strongest showing in quite some time. And the thing with her is she was convicted of something really ridiculous, and so she may not be able to run, but she does have a protege who could end up becoming prime minister if they continue this upward trend. So you have what's going on in France. And like I said, it's not just left versus right. This is a picture of the electoral map in France right now. And it's opposite of what we have. The blue actually represents the conservative votes. And so the left in France is going to be in for a rude awakening. And as I mentioned, the AfD, they are surging. This is not just a left versus right thing. It's not even really a left versus right thing. It's a vertical struggle. You have the elites versus the people, the ruling class versus the voters. And the core drivers behind this is just like in this country, mass importation of the third world, which leads to a cultural identity crisis, which impacts national sovereignty. It's the same pattern. It's the reality of the situation. When you import the third world, you become the third world. But of course, the elites, the leadership, the ruling class, they just dismiss these as non-issues. Perhaps just like in Texas, the wealthy Muslims are paying them off to just let it slide. I don't have any evidence of that. I haven't dug into that to see. That's just my speculation, but stands to reason, I would think. But when the ruling class, when the elites, when they ignore reality, the voters will reintroduce it, one election at a time. And eventually it's gonna put them out of power. I pray. Not every response to this, though, not every response is grounded in reality, unfortunately. There are some people who, for whatever reason, and it probably again has to do with money, are just not only are they ignoring the danger that is radical Islam, but they're actually saying that the way that they conduct themselves is actually a good thing. Which makes me wonder if the people who actually say that are really closeted Muslims. And of course, oh, maybe not of course, I'm not sure if you, excuse me, if you're familiar with it, but I'm talking about Tucker Carlson. I don't talk about him much because he's a lunatic. He used to be somebody that I respected, whose opinions I gave some credence to. He has gone so far off the reservation. He's the only conclusion you can come to is he's either a complete lunatic who's gone bat guano crazy, or he is a closeted Muslim. And he does have a home in Qatar now, so you feel free to make your own conclusions. But he was on a podcast, and I'm not sure who the guy who this guy is, whose podcast he's on. And it's funny, everything I've seen about it, I haven't heard anybody mention who this guy is, which kind of tells you a lot, but check this out.
I travel so much that I see it. There's not a single Western city that's thriving. And they're all degrading in exactly the same way.
Is a lot of it just a moral decay, or is it actually true from everything?
It's a lot of things, but it's self-hatred.
It is a lot of things. And a lot of it is that these Western cities of which he speaks are all run by leftists. He should go to some places where the cities and states are actually run by people who do like what they're doing, who do like their citizens, who love their citizens, who do want to see it thrive. Despite what I said about Texas, there are some beautiful cities and towns in Texas, in Florida, right here in Arkansas. He just needs to get out more. But let's continue.
Every city,
Crazy.
every European city, every American city, it's just white. People lose their will to live, their will to pass on their culture, their values, their religion to their children, their will to have children. It's all gone. I mean, it's not gone with everybody, but I mean, in the cities, you really see it. It's like the people who built this are long gone, and their descendants have fled, and they don't care enough to keep it going. There's just a lack of self-respect that is disgusting to me, and I have contempt for it.
And how did that happen, I wonder?
It doesn't bother me to be hated. What really bothers me is when people hate themselves. If you hate if you hate yourself, how are you going to treat me?
That's correct.
Oh man, I don't like it. So I notice it because I travel outside the Western world, the white world. I'm just be honest, the white world.
Right.
I travel a lot in the Middle East. It's amazing. It's amazing. I'm not Muslim, obviously. In fact, I'm.
That's not necessarily obvious there, buddy boy.
I'm like a Christian, flat out Christian.
No, you're not. I can be fairly confident in saying, no, you're not. You might be one of those cultural Christians that I talked about because you were raised that way. But if you were a Christian, you're not. Anyway.
Ancestors are from Europe. And so I have nothing in common on that level with the Gulf. But you go to the Gulf and it's incredible to be in a place that has pride in itself, that believes in its religion and culture, that thinks we're onto something. And this is great. Look at what we're doing. We're really proud of this. Those people are happy. They're welcoming of others. They're tolerant of diversity.
Here we go. I can't believe he actually said this, but here we go.
Right. Tolerant of diversity. There's none of that here. Are you kidding? All the whites, we love black people. Then they run and move to Bozeman because there are no black people.
Absolutely. Send their kid to the...
They hate diversity.
They hate it.
And our version of it isn't working at all. At all. So, but you go to a country like Japan or the Emirates or Qatar or Saudi Arabia, and you see that when people are self-confident, when they're really pleased with what they're doing and they believe that their system is the right system, that self-confidence results in a kind of welcoming attitude. So you'll be sitting at dinner in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, and you'll say, I'm really kind of pro-Jesus. Like
First of all, nobody is ever going to say that in Saudi Arabia. It's just, I'll take things that never happened for 500, Alex. I mean, does not happen and did not happen to him. Guaranteed.
Christian, they'll be like, oh, that's so great.
And they don't have the same...
Well, they mean it.
And they don't have the same belief.
No, they're Muslims.
They're Muslims.
It's a country governed by Sharia law.
Right.
So here he is praising, once again, because it's not the first time he's praised Sharia law. I mean, is he, I guess another possibility is he's trying to be provocative, like a shock jock or something like that, like Howard Stern or the Grease Man. How many of you remember the Grease Man? Let me know in the comments if you do. So I guess that's another possibility, that he's just trying to get clicks and make money, even though I think he's getting a lot of money from Qatar and other Islamic entities. But the point he made about the cities, especially the leftist cities in this country, not working is legitimate. That's true. And the point he made about people leaving those cities is also true, but it has nothing to do with the population of the city. It has to do with the fact that they're not safe. People want to be safe. And so they're going to move someplace where they believe they will be safe. But using the Middle East, using Qatar and the Emirates and Riyadh, Saudi Arabia as a comparison or as a contrast just doesn't work. That's a flawed comparison. It creates a moral equivalency that suggests that because something seems better there, that their system as a whole must be better. And I submit to you that that is absolutely not the case. There was I had a clip of something to illustrate that point, but I seem to have lost it. But there was a clip of a husband beating his wife because she was on the phone in public. But that's the system in those places he mentioned. That's accepted in those areas. The reality of what's happening exposes problems. It exposes the issue that he talks about in some of these Western cities. But because there are some of those issues, that doesn't justify just completely abandoning your beliefs and your standards to adopt something completely antithetical to our way of life just because you think the streets are cleaner or they take pride in what they have. People take pride in what they have here too. You just have to go outside of places like Chicago and New York to find it. Just because reality shows that things are not working the way they should doesn't mean that anything that works is worth becoming. Because the reality of what he's seeing over there is surface level. It's surface level. They're not going to show him the reality of what's going on over there. Because the reality is, in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, women can't drive. Women have almost no rights in those places. Maybe that's what he wants. I don't know. But it's the fact that he actually is saying this is really mind-blowing. And again, I don't know if he's just saying shocking things to mine for clicks, if he actually believes this. And the fact that he has a home in Qatar kind of makes me lean towards that. He's been saying this kind of stuff for a while now. The reality, getting things back to acknowledging reality here requires a clarity of thought and action, not an overcorrection, which is kind of what he's alluding to and what he seems to want. But when the leadership doesn't have that clarity of thought, the things that they try to hide start to slip out. And one of those elites of which I spoke was or is Chris Murphy. And this is an older clip, but it started to make the rounds again because of what happened in Chicago with Sheridan Gorman. And it really hits home when you look at it through that lens. So let's listen to this madness. One of the dumbest people in Congress.
The negotiation didn't have a path to citizenship. It was entirely on their terms in order to get Ukraine funding, right?
Well, I mean, Chris, that's been a failed play for 20 years. So right. You are right that has been the Democratic strategy for 30 years, maybe. And it has failed to deliver for the people we care about most, the undocumented Americans that are in this country.
The negotiation.
Undocumented Americans. Undocumented Americans do not exist. Let's just get that out there right now. There is no such thing as an undocumented American. There are illegal aliens, but if you're an American, then you by definition are not undocumented. But that's part of the whole language thing I talked about. They try to, they twist language, redefine words. I've mentioned Michael Knowles' book, Controlling Words, Controlling Minds, Speechless, Controlling Words, Controlling Minds, where he goes into the history of this in quite some detail. And it's worth checking out. And then once you really understand that, then when you hear stuff like this, it's even more shocking, or maybe less shocking, depending on your point of view. But it's very striking. And that was a rare glimpse, a rare moment of honesty from someone on the left. This was back in 2024. And they were prioritizing illegal immigrants, illegal aliens, just like they always do. And then they try to frame it as compassion. But it signaled a complete shift in their priority. It didn't signal it, it basically announced it. Citizens of this country are no longer their priority. And they put that on full display in the State of the Union when President Trump asked them to stand up if they thought that protecting American citizens was their number one job. Not a single one of them stood. I take that back. John Fetterman stood up. That was it. That was it. So this moral framing that they've come up with supersedes their national obligation. It supersedes what they swore an oath to. Or it doesn't supersede it, but they have placed it above that. In reality, it doesn't, but that's how they're conducting themselves. And when they do stuff like that, when they make these statements, or when they act this way, the narrative eventually slips. The narrative eventually gets exposed. And what they're actually trying to do. The reality of what they are shows up. So that wasn't necessarily a gaffe from Murphy. That was an unexpected moment of truth from them. An unexpected exposure of their true intentions. And when you look at it in light of all of the victims of the illegal aliens that they have allowed into this country, it's actually sad. I'm looking for the website because I want to actually get that out to you guys, because you need to actually expose yourself to that reality, to the reality of these the consequences of what they're doing. Well, I can't find it, so I'll have to put it in the show notes or post it on X or something, because you really, really need to see the extent to which these people have allowed illegal aliens to victimize American citizens. And when you scroll through the list, it's like you can't believe the extent of the damage that these people have caused. The wreckage of so many families. And they just don't seem like they couldn't care less. Couldn't care less. And so we need to expose it. And so, like I said, I'm gonna locate that website and post it so that you can see for yourself. And then once you see it, you will not be able to unsee it. All right. I actually got through that a little faster than I anticipated. So there's a couple of things I want to talk about. Since I have the time to get into it. One of the, there was a story. I saw this story in relation to another story that I was looking at, where a Texas father was acquitted of all charges for killing the guy who raped his daughter. I believe she was 11, something like that. Regardless, he was not incarcerated for that public service. I don't want to call it a crime, because he stopped the crime from happening. But this is a similar story to that. It didn't happen in this country. It happened in Brazil, but I thought it was still worth mentioning. A woman who admitted killing her boyfriend and cutting off his genitals was acquitted in Brazil. And what happened was this mother found text messages that her boyfriend was sending to her 11-year-old daughter. And when you read the story, it seems kind of premeditated, but then you have to take into account, we don't know how big this guy was. We don't know if he had weapons. We don't know if he was a trained fighter. We don't know anything about him. So after she found these texts, she called him into another room and gave him a beer. But the beer was spiked with Klonopin. And it must have been spiked with quite a bit because he fell unconscious. And then she basically bludgeoned him to death. She bludgeoned him to death. And then once he was either dead or close to it, she cut off his junk. And somebody actually helped her move his body. And then when the police came, because they followed a trail of blood from her apartment, and she handed over the knife. She said, "Yep, I did it." And she confessed, claiming rightly that she was trying to prevent her daughter from suffering any further attacks from this monster. And the jury sided with her. This is the way. And like I said, the brutality with which she dispatched this guy, I don't have a problem with. And it may have been the only way she could. I mean, she wasn't going to be able to beat him in a fight. It wasn't like she was going to knuckle up and guard a grill and take him out. It wasn't going to work that way. So, and the jury seemed to agree. Cleared up any wrongdoing. I think that is outstanding. Good on the jury in Brazil. There's one other story. There's one other story I want to get to. Not that. Mussolini, Gavin Newsom. I don't know if this guy is. No, he's definitely stupid. He's definitely stupid. Because he put out this, or his press office, I don't know if he did it. His press office put out a tweet saying that he, for many years, people have been saying that he looks like Patrick Bateman. Now, I don't know if you are familiar with Patrick Bateman. He is the main character in American Psycho, played by Christian Bale. He says, for so many years, people have been saying that Patrick Bateman and I look alike. Now this pic has been going all over the place. What do you think? He is an absolute moron. Because saying that you look like Patrick Bateman, that's not a compliment. He is a serial killer. The name of the movie is American Psycho. And the fact that people think he reminds them of Patrick Bateman, not something you want to emphasize. I don't think. And he got he got dragged on social media for that. And I have to think that the people who are running his press office are probably not old enough to really know who Patrick Bateman is. They just saw Christian Bale, I don't know, maybe thought Batman. And so, yeah, this is cool. And people are saying that he's just as much of a psychopath as Patrick Bateman. I don't understand this guy. I really don't. Because people say he's such a brilliant politician, and he makes these gaffes you can't even really call them gaffes anymore. He just does these things all the time. Now somebody replied to that, and this was their response. I can't remember if that's Beavis or Butthead, but regardless, I think that's a more appropriate comparison. I mean, I don't know. I just, the first time I saw that, I just thought, wow, you need to fire your press people or whoever's running your social media, because that was ridiculous. That was an unforced error. And then again, I don't know that he has much of a shot politically after he leaves office, leaves the governor's office in California. He has absolutely no shot at the White House, because I don't even think his fellow Democrats like him enough to nominate him to run for the White House. I really don't. And then even if they did, his record in California is so abysmal. So abysmal. Boondoggles, for trains to nowhere. He promised to end homelessness, and homelessness has almost tripled since he's been in office. Crime is ridiculous. Gas is through the roof. Oil refineries and all kinds of businesses have left. He has run California into the ground. And I feel sorry for all of my friends who are still there dealing with that. And I know a lot of them, there are some people I know that just want to stay, but I know some are just trapped due to various circumstances. And the price that those people are going to pay, I don't even want to think about it. I don't even want to think about it. But anyway, folks, you can ignore reality like Mussolini's doing. You can spin it. You can shame people into denying it, or at least not acknowledging it. But eventually reality is going to show up. And when it does, it's going to bite. And it's going to hurt. But anyway, y'all, that's it for this briefing. We're not just here to bloviate and opine. We're here to equip Christian men and spread the gospel of Jesus Christ and carry the banner of faith, freedom, and hope into future generations. And if anything that we said here today matters to you, don't just watch. Please share it. Bring another guy into the fight. And if you want to wear what you stand for, head over to themissionreadymen.com and click Shop 7 Armors and check out all of the great designs that we have there about bold faith, true grit, and unapologetic patriotism. And while you're there, you can also check out the SHR shop and check out all of the great designs that we have there as well. And I want to thank everyone who was in the chat for being here. I really appreciate it. Thank the moderators for holding it down. You guys are doing an amazing job. We tend not to keep an eye on the chat so much as hosts, because if we did that, we just wouldn't be able to get through any of the material that we prepare for the show. So we always enjoy listening to or watching a good debate in the chat. So thank you all for being here. We really appreciate that. And remember, when seconds count, the police are only minutes away, but the Lord is right there with you. So keep your prayers going up and your head on a swivel. God bless.